I have a black eye. I had a fight the day before. I had a lot of fights.
That's typical, right?
That was typical. But I'll tell you something. You know, you mentioned how I spoke. I was very self-conscious about my accent because I had a very, very distinct Chicago accent.
But these were all Chicagoans.
Yeah, I don't know. Mine was worse than anybody else's.
Okay.
So I remember when I first started teaching school, my first job was 7th grade, junior high school.
But you were already in Los Angeles.
I was in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I was going to law school at night, and I was teaching 7th grade, and it was my first day. And I thought, God, I hope these kids don't know I'm a fraud because I can't even speak English. So I had to watch every word I spoke to make sure there's not too many D's, Dems, and Do's. And I saw a little girl in the front row, and I thought, when I was a kid, the teachers had pets. And I thought, she'll be my teacher's pet, and she'll run errands and do things like that. And I remember saying, Betty, please bring this to the office. And she looks at me and she says, Mr. Green, bring it to the office? You mean take it to the office? I said, Betty, I knew you were smart. I'm just testing you.
Oh, right. That was a good response.
And
reaction.
then when I finished my last year at Cal State LA to get my bachelor's degree, I had to take as a required course drama.
You mean drama?
That's the way we called it. We called it drama where I grew up. Well, anyway, I got all A's on all of my written work, but when I had to get up and speak, I'm telling you, I could have died. I would rather have taken a bullet in the head. So the teacher was a jerk, and he gave me D's on my oral presentation. And afterwards, when I got my final grade, I saw him on the campus, and I said, you know, you don't have a little compassion for someone with a, I said, I'm sorry, I've got an accent, I tried my best. I said, couldn't you give me a break? But yeah, he was a jerk. But I got my degree.
You showed him.
I showed him.
More of your humor. My father and all my friends' fathers walked around their apartments in their underwear. And you said the Northsiders' fathers wore slippers and robes and many smoke pipes. But here is the love and the humor again. Yeah. Now, it's amazing what you've accomplished in so many venues. You're a varied personality. You love boxing. Let's talk about your boxing interests.
I'm in the Hall of Fame. I'm proud to tell you I was inducted into the California Boxing Hall of Fame. I am the legal advisor for the California Boxing Hall of Fame. I was a legal advisor for the World Boxing Hall of Fame. I was on the board of directors of the Los Angeles Police Department Boxing Clinic. I represented at one time the California Professional Boxing Referees and Ringside Physicians. And I had the privilege of sparring with many world champions. And I'm very well known in the boxing community. And when most boxers get in trouble in Los Angeles, they call Ken Green.
Call Ken Green.
In fact, I still box, and I used to box twice a week, but now I go once a week. And as I climb the stairs, my trainer was the great Freddie Roach. He's the greatest trainer that ever lived. He is to boxing training what Casey Stengel was to managing baseball. He's had 27 world champions, including Manny Pacquiao now. He's had Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya. He was my first trainer. And so when I climb the stairs, invariably, I will hear this. If you're in a jam and you're heading for the can, who do you call? Ken Green.
Oh, how beautiful. These
I
are
love
all
boxers.
your buddies.
I love them.
What do you love about boxing?
Well, it's very similar to being a lawyer because you're alone in the ring. An attorney, goes to court, they're alone. So I like the fact that there are no teammates, it's just you. Roberta, I got hooked on it when I was a kid. I sat on my father's lap. I was a little baby listening to the rematch between Joe Louis and Max Schmeling. I tell you, I got injected. I loved it. I've always loved it. And and the boxers they're great people. They have big hearts. The guys that I work out with at the gym, if I would call them in the middle of the night, they'd come out.
They'd come out for you.
They love me.
You have friends, passionate friends in everything you've ever done, right?
I do.
Now, you also represent the Anti-Defamation League.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did. I
Okay.
was a volunteer attorney for the Anti-Defamation League.
Did you enjoy doing that?
I did.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, I did. Well, my father, as I mentioned to you, he was raised in Poland, and he lived in a pogrom,
Yeah.
and it was called Białystok. And as you probably know, by around 1939 or 1940, there was no more
It
Białystok.
was horrible what
Hitler
happened
killed
there.
them all.
Yeah.
My father was one of 9 children, and luckily he escaped. He got out before Hitler got there. And so I have always, I don't like Nazis. So
They're to be
they don't
not
want to
liked.
meet me. They
Yeah.
wouldn't want to meet me.
Did your father ever talk about his time in Poland and Warsaw?
He did. He talked about one day when his youngest brother had some kind of a high fever, and my father had to go to fetch some medicine, and he had to go through this neighborhood, and the non-Jews, he said, would have killed him. And so he had to crawl through a field, and it was dark, and he was shot. He was shot in the leg. He showed me the bullet hole. They had a very difficult life. It was a nightmare. But my father got out.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How and where did your parents meet? Is your mother from?
My mother, Roberta, was born in Chicago, and she was a manicurist. By the way, neither of my parents had any education at all. My mother quit high school, Thule, in the second year, and my father never went past grammar school.
Amazing.
So my mother was a manicurist at a very famous or infamous barbershop on Division Street called Nate's. Everybody knew Nate's Barbershop. And in 1936, my father came in for a haircut, and they met and they got married.
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
There were many shops and stores like that in your neighborhood. Let's talk about some
Sure,
of them. You
sure.
hung out at Stelzer's?
Well, there were a lot of delis. The most popular was the Humboldt Spot, right on the corner of Division in California. Everybody went there to hang out. The Jewish people I grew up with didn't drink, so instead our socializing consisted of going to the Humboldt Spot and having a corned beef sandwich and a chocolate phosphate.
Heaven, right?
That was heaven. It was 50 cents for the corned beef sandwich.
So that's what that was, and it was a deli.
It was a deli. Right? Then there was another deli nearby called Stelzer's, and that was a little higher class because they changed tablecloths every day. that was a big deal.
But Stelzer's,
They're all long gone.
no, but I mean, I don't know if it was Stelzer's or not, but they changed once a week. So that was the difference between the Ultra
Oh
restaurant?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Then another one that was very popular was Joe Pierce Deli, and he was called the Working Man's Deli, and all the Jewish people would go there and they'd have a corned beef sandwich with pickles, and that's where the famous chocolate phosphate began.
Oh, is that right?
He had a counterman named Hyman Weiss, and he invented the
He
chocolate
invented
Yeah,
that.
the chocolate phosphate.
I hope he got credit for that.
Geez, I hope so.
Now, here's another adorable thing you say. To a Jew, corned beef is the elixir of life. That
Well,
says it all.
I think so. I mean, you show me a Jew that doesn't like corned beef, and I'll show you a Jew that grew up.
Isn't Jewish.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not Jewish.
You said we were all poor, but we didn't know it.
Roberta, the guys that I grew up with, if I were to walk up to one of them and say, Jerry, you have change for $1? He'd say, I don't carry that kind of cash. But we had a good time. We loved each other. You know, I'm 73 years old, and I still see them every time I come in.
We have to say that you come here every 2 months, and you have an apartment or a
I
condominium.
bought a condo.
Tell us about that.
Well, I've lived in Los Angeles now since 1962. My wife is from Northern California, and about 3 years ago, she said, we're both lawyers. She's a district attorney. And we're both lawyers, she said, and we're in good shape financially. She said, let's get a second home. I said, what do you have in mind? She said, how about a beach house? I said, okay. So we started looking around, and we were looking at places like Oxnard, California, Ventura, and we wanted a bungalow right on the sand. That was out of our price range. We could have afforded a townhouse about 100 yards away. It wasn't quite what we wanted. I said, you know what? We come to Chicago all the time.